Freedom is the pure idea.
Hello and welcome to Daughters of Ferrix, the show that was made for Andor, but that Andor was also kind of made for. I'm your host, Eleanor Mueller, and with me is my co-host, Sophia Dunstan. Sophie, I'm making you watch a Star Wars show again.
That's okay, because I think, as has been established on this podcast, I really like Andor, and I have, not to sort of spoil anything, quite enjoyed the first 3 episodes, so...
At least I'm not torturing you this time around. I don't think I've ever made you watch anything bad. There isn't a lot of, frankly, actually bad stuff. I'll make you watch the story of the faithful Wookiee or something sometime.
Oh, gosh. No, didn't I have to watch the Christmas special at one point?
No, I asked you about the Christmas special, and you told me that you didn't know what it was.
Oh, that's right. Okay. My bad.
Holiday special, whatever. Up top, I'm going to thank Hemi, Alexander Cowan, Bestowal Donkey 8, Ben Rao, Corey Harrigan, Charlotte 96, Glitchio2, Joe Latovsky, Submarine Squirrel, Snail War, and Matthias Diaz for supporting us over on Patreon. They are all the toolies that keep this show's equipment running. If you're interested in early access to the show, episode outtake videos, the Daughters of Ferrix Discord server, and our bonus episodes, check us out at patreon.com/Daughters of Ferrix. Thanks for going over there after the trans episode. I really appreciate you guys. That one's doing well. So I'm feeling good about that. Sophie, do you want to talk about Andor?
Let's do it.
So, welcome. It's finally happening. It's been 2.5 years. We are talking about Andor Season 2. They made the good show again. They made good shows anyway. They made the good show again. This is going to be the first of 4 weekly episodes discussing each arc of the show as it releases. We are milking that Diego Luna teat, I guess. I want every drop.
Look, no, Ellie, you can't just say that. Like, I think we've said a lot of sort of crazy things on this show, but that may honestly take the cake.
Look, I can say what I want about Diego Luna. Let's just say that. For each of these arcs, we have come up with a guest to make these discussions as good as they can be. If you're a video viewer, you might see I'm in a different location. I'm currently in sunny, cloudy Tokyo. And so this one's going to be not like a lot different, but like a little different. But we have someone to help. This is a guest that I think is really perfect for this arc. She's a former journalist with experience covering local government, the Illinois State Legislature, and the Pentagon. These days, she runs the YouTube channel Bonapartista, where she makes carefully researched explanations about the complex politics of leftist factions. It's Maxine Kwiatkowski.
Hi.
That's how you say your name, right, Max?
Yeah, it is. No, I mean, look,
Okay.
it used to be
Thank
worse.
Christ.
My old name was Gregor Spilczyszkiewicz from Szemszowszyce Powiat Lokolody. That's an old Polish joke for
And then you had to go into witness protection from the USSR. It's so very, very good to have you. It's been a while since we had someone else on the show, so.
Oh God, I don't know if that's a dubious honor or a great one. No, I'm kidding. I'm glad to be here, and it's a pleasure to do something that's fun, because my channel is, in a nutshell, incredibly depressing.
Oh, this one's not that fun, Max.
Comparatively speaking, you're talking about Star Wars, action figures, and theme parks. I'm talking about people who are really, really into politics to the point where it's like fandom disasters. So, hey, maybe it's a little bit more relevant than we thought.
Max, can you kind of explain a little bit more about the sorts of groups you talk about on your channel? You say that you talk about the sectarian left. What is that? What is the sectarian left?
So, kind of give you an idea. There's politics, you've got a left wing, a right wing, and a center. On the far left, there kind of used to be, these kind of strong political parties. In Europe, you have things like the Communist Party, for example. You'll have a socialist party. And then maybe you'll have like some social democrats, usually called like labor or something. In America, we briefly had that. It was called the Socialist Party of America. And then something called the Bolshevik Revolution happened. And that kind of fucked everything up, to put it lightly, because they basically split. We had a communist party, but they were really, really aligned with the Soviet Union. Cold War being what it was, basically you saw the Communist Party kind of implode on itself. Long story short, there's a lot of tiny leftist groups out there who basically play politics like they're a major player, and they punch way above their weight. And a lot of them end up becoming basically the equivalent of cults. So, and the American left was basically these little tiny groups, effectively from, I would say, the 60s on until basically 2016. So you have all these little tiny groups. To kind of give you an example, that there's that scene from last season of Andor where Saw Gerrera is going like, Anto Krieger, he's a separatist. Maya Pei, she's a neo-Republican. The Gorman Front, they're all bastards, or whatever the exact quote is.
Yeah, that's exactly what he says, yeah.
That's basically my channel in a nutshell, is like, there's all these tiny factions, and they're, well, unlike our good friend Mr. Gerrera, I kind of go into, like, why did these groups pop up? Where did they come from? Why were they relevant? And what happened to them? Because in a lot of cases, and why I kind of started this channel, I was a member of one of these groups. And they demand a lot of work, because, again, these are tiny, tiny groups that are trying to play in mass politics. And that basically causes mass burnout, or sometimes what I've usually uncovered, which is why I don't consider my channel particularly fun. It's a lot of abuse, and it's usually, content warning, sexual in nature, violence. The last group I covered, the Revolutionary Communist Party, even got one of their members murdered because they kept encroaching on gangland territory. So it's very important to kind of see, especially if we're trying to build a socialist movement in the United States, to understand where we came from and how we move forward. Because a lot of people really take from this sectarian playbook of, well, our ideas are true and right, so therefore we can do things that larger political parties do when you don't have the resources or the numbers. You're either going to burn people out or you're going to become a cult. There's two paths for that. At least I've seen so far.
You gave a content warning, and I think I'm going to kind of riff on that. Hard spoiler warning for the first 3 episodes of Andor Season 2. Probably go watch those before you listen to us. You don't have to, but,
But you should.
I'm not saying you should spend your money on Disney Plus, and I'm not saying you should do different things. I also am going to offer a proper content warning, trigger warning for Episode 3. The episode does not have a trigger warning, and it really fucking should. The timestamps for that scene, the scene in Andor, are going to be put in the description, but we're also going to be talking about that. That is also going to be in the description, and I'm going to call that out before we discuss it. All right, I think we should start, as the episode does, with what Cassian is up to. So the episode eponymously picks up 1 year later, and Cassian is actually in it now. He was this wishy-washy motherfucker who just wanted to hang out on the beach in season 1, and now he is kind of about where we know him in Rogue One, where he is sacrificing himself, where he is really, he is in it. This guy is evangelizing to people about the rebellion, about the cause. It is a far cry from even where it left off in season 1.
He buys the sauce now.
He's lost in the sauce. He's drunk the Kool-Aid, which is the point that it got him to on Ferrix after his mother's funeral. And I don't know. That was really the thing that struck me. They context listener, they showed this episode off at Star Wars Celebration 5 days ago. And so I've just been kind of sitting on that, on how different Cassian feels as a guy. He's really willing to take seriously the place that, for context, he is at a fucking Sinar location. Sinar is the manufacturers of the TIE fighters. He's at one of their like numbered planets or whatever. I think it's 73. It doesn't matter. And there is, I don't know if she's an informant or an operative there on the scene. It sounds like she was radicalized while there. And I don't know. She and Andor have this really lovely interaction to start out the episode where she essentially says like she found that job valuable. And like, she seems to kind of feel bad about it. I don't know. It's very grounded, I guess.
Well, it's like she likes her job, right? But also she's like, oh, hey, my job is doing evil, so I should probably help the rebels. Oops.
I mean, I can kind of get where that comes from. Because, I mean, she's basically working for Space Raytheon. The benefits are probably amazing. Because I think one of the things that we really see in the series is just how you've gone from this Republic golden age, and these are the people who can still kind of live off of that and live in these nice areas and get to do science and get to get these STEM degrees, versus like, you know, we go like from last season where we saw like really the rough working class areas like on Ferrix. It's this dichotomy of like, I have all this privilege and, you know, good things, but oh shit, I'm doing it in favor of Space Hitler. I really like seeing that like dichotomy of. I think these 3 episodes really talk about it. I think it's like a concept by Hannah Arendt, but it's the whole concept of the banality of evil. This idea that, you know, being a concentration camp guard was someone's day job, and I think she kind of the lady over at Sinar kind of realizes, yeah, I'm effectively like, I mean, obviously she doesn't have context for this because it's a different universe, but like, oh shit, I'm Werner von Braun. I'm making rockets, but I'm making rockets to bomb London, not to go to the moon and advance mankind. I'm advancing something wrong.
Well, it's one of those things where I think Andor is very humanizing, right? There's this refrain that I every time I read it, I add it to the list of grievances, but people say, I want to see the good people working under the Empire. And it's like, okay, no good person is working under the Empire per se. A good Imperial defects. However, there are human people under the Empire. There are people making human choices and that contain nuance, right? I'm still out there rooting for fucking Dedra Meero, even though I know I really shouldn't.
Our problematic fave, Ms. Girlboss Fascist Dedra Meero, our queen, whomst we stan.
I thought I was over her, and then they let her have her hair down. So
I know, that was crazy.
She smiles once.
She does smile. She smiles more than once. She smiles like towards Edie. It's really not important. This is not what we're talking about. So Cassian fucking steals, I don't know, I guess the equivalent of one of those fucking like, what are they called? Like not test jets, experimental like jets, prototype jets. He steals the TIE Avenger. It's the TIE Avenger. I'm sorry. I'm blanking on things right now. He steals the fucking TIE Avenger. He is taking it to a contact on a jungle planet, which is, spoilers. It's fucking Yavin 4.
Yeah.
That was some bullshit. That was some Star Wars ass bullshit. Everyone's like, Tony Gilroy, he's so much better than the Star Wars bullshit. They don't even do the Star. Yes, they do. It's still Star Wars. You're never gonna be free. Get over yourselves.
It's always gonna be pulp.
I did quite like, this is jumping way ahead, but I did quite like how I just didn't know it was Yavin until he lifted off from there, and it's like showing these like fuck ass pyramid things that they have there, and I'm just like, oh my god, of course.
Stupid.
I'm gonna be real.
Stupid show.
I'm gonna be real, Sophie. I was in the same boat. At first I was like, oh, he's on Duck Sun, because that's like the planet from KOTOR 2, because I've got KOTOR 2 brain. Yeah, I'm that kind of Star Wars fan. Kreia quotes incoming. No, I'm kidding. No, just seeing that, like you were saying, just the pyramids at the end, you're like, oh shit, it's Yavin 4. This is going to be some fun foreshadowing.
And I think it also is like as a narrative device, I guess, interesting to show like how far there is to go still until the events of Rogue One and then A New Hope, right? Like, because there isn't like a base yet. Like, it's just like a whole bunch of guys starving there, and it's not yet the rebel base. And so it's like, I think a subtle nudge that we still have a ways to go before we get there.
Well, and not having that base, I think, is exemplary of one of the big problems right now, where Andor flies in this fucking TIE Avenger. Here's the TIE Avenger now. I didn't write it down. He flies in this fucking prototype TIE, and he lands it, and he's supposed to hand it off to some guy who's gonna take it for Luthen, presumably, because that's who Andor's working for. And the contact's not there. Andor, the ship that Andor was supposed to leave on, is wrecked. And instead it's just a bunch of fuck-ass guys. It's like 15 or 16 fuck-ass guys who are rebels, but assume that Cassian is a TIE test pilot, like a proper Imperial.
Yeah, and I guess my question is, why would a random TIE, I can't work through their logic here. If I was them, I would have been like, hold on, why is a Imperial test pilot landing on this random uninhabited moon in the middle of nowhere? Like, why is he doing that? I don't know. Seems kind of sus.
I mean, they're starving and desperate and traumatized and stupid, right? It's kind of all four.
I think we should emphasize that last one, because they were kind of stupid.
Incredibly.
They were major stupid.
I thought that was all going to be like a comedy sequence. When I first heard them like arguing, I was like, oh shit, we are getting a little bit more into like the more pulpy side of it. And of course, no, it's still Andor.
They shot each other.
I mean, yeah, they shot each other. They were like goofing off, like people get eaten by animals. Like they piss off the monsters. Like I swear to God, it really reminded me of like basically what if the I don't know how familiar you or your listeners are to a group known as the Weathermen, who were basically this like pop-off group of leftists who like bombed buildings and shit. Imagine if they actually became like guerrillas and they went out into the woods like, yeah, we're gonna overthrow capitalism, and then they like show up out in like the jungles of Guatemala. It's like, oh shit, my fucking British literature degree is worthless. Like, I don't know how to make a meal.
Like these guys are the sort of guys who like actually blow up the Walmart, but for no perceptible reason.
So this is, I guess, what's left of the Maya Pei Brigade. Maya Pei is a dumbass name drop in Andor Season 1 where, yeah, again, Saw Gerrera is listing a bunch of guys, and he says that Maya Pei, character we don't know, is a neo-Republican. So these are neo-Republican motherfuckers, I guess. Which is funny because, wow, they're the Neo-Republicans, and they're on Yavin 4, and Yavin 4 becomes the base of the Alliance, which is becomes deeply Neo-Republican. That's interesting. I don't know if that's anything. I don't think that's going to go anywhere, but it's cool.
I actually had the same, Ellie, I had kind of the same thought of like, oh shit, did these like dipshit kids who are, I mean, their incompetence really like highlights that they're probably from like the mid-rim or the core worlds, you know, where like everything's all nice and kind of bougie. And again, like that's at least my headcanon is like they're all just a bunch of kids from Naboo who are like, yeah, man, we're from the University of Theon. We're gonna join the Maya Pei Brigade. And then she just sets up in a fucking like ancient temple, gets eaten by a snake because they're all a bunch of dumbass kids who don't know what they're doing. Oh my God. Just as kind of an aside, I've dealt with people who are like quite like that, but luckily, we live in the United States, so they don't actually try to become like guerrillas or anything, because I would not trust half of the, like, they remind me of like the people you don't want to trust with guns, which, go figure, it's the United States, like, a lot of people we shouldn't trust with guns.
I don't know, I definitely think there could be an aspect of that privilege, but it's also worth understanding that to whatever degree these people are effective and are competent, that is, like, completely neutered because the place that they are in is deeply leaderless. Cassian quickly comes to understand that there are sort of two faction leaders. It's really quite muddy. There's this guy named Gertis who, claims to always have been Maya Pei's number 2. There's this guy named Barty who is an asshole. They're both assholes. Because Maya Pei is nowhere to be found. Something happened, maybe on this planet, maybe elsewhere, and Maya Pei is gone or dead. A lot of their people are gone. Barty's brother maybe ran away, or went back for survivors. It's, either is possible. They don't have a ship now. And so this is what they're stuck with. This is the leadership that they have. And you really get the sense that the thing keeping this group together that was making them effective, because I believe they're effective enough, because they're getting supplied by Luthen, the thing that was making them effective was their leader. They were so centered around Maya Pei and what she was to them and what and her guidance, that once they don't have that, they are nothing.
Well, that's
And
probably
they're
like
petty motherfuckers who solve their problems with rock, paper, scissors.
it's like emblematic of the problems with like the early rebellion, that it's just a sort of like bunch of like personalist cult cells, basically.
One could say sects.
Well, that's
One could say
sects.
almost, yeah.
I like all of us being really clear to pronounce the T in sects.
Yes, pronounce the T. Don't drop the T, y'all.
Look, given the historical context of what certain revolutionary cells have got up to, I don't know that we need to drop the T. We need to emphasize the T.
You're very right to say that is kind of the state of things at this point in the rebellion. I mean, that's kind of partially Saw Gerrera's ideology, right? Saw Gerrera, coming out from the Clone Wars, is a monarchist, like a little bit of a monarchist. And then as a rebel, I mean, this is something he talks about. It's a different piece of media, but I think it's relevant because it's relevant. In Rebel Rising, Saw Gerrera basically espouses the virtue of having one very effective, very personable, it's like a deeply populist thing, that the way you do rebellion is you have one guy who everybody looks up to. And Saw Gerrera thinks this because he's Saw Gerrera.
Saw Gerrera supports the cult of personality of himself.
Saw Gerrera
really.
is the cult of personality.
Uphold
Yes.
the anti-revisionist powers of Saw Gerrera. All others are revisionists against Saw Gerrera thought. Bogali.
I feel like Saw Gerrera would be like, I think he and Mao would have got along.
Oh, Del. That'd be terrifying.
I don't know either of them personally. That's not something I can
We must have a
even guess.
cultural revolution.
The assumption is that these people have leaders that are so great and so noble that the rebels under them never have to plan to be without them. And that just isn't realistic. Like, no matter how good and effective a leader is, you have to be more than that. You have to have something to actually say. It can't just be personalism. That's probably something that Cassian's going to deal with. Maybe he loses Luthen, but whether or not he does, he's going to end up working for some different people over the next few years.
Wait. Ellie, are you
What?
suggesting that we should maybe have an institution or something?
Oh, no.
I'm suggesting that we should have principles and strategies that go beyond one singular ruler.
Perhaps we should have a party?
I'm not even saying we should have a party. I'm saying we should have a little bit more than guys who are forgetting to drink rainwater when it's raining.
Something I kind of wanted to bring up with this was something I actually was reading recently with the DSA chapter that I'm a member of, Chicago DSA, which, yes, that organization, I'm just going to be frank, as a whole is kind of a clusterfuck, but there's some good aspects, I promise you. But there's a book we were reading, it was called If We Burn by Vincent Bevins, and it's about kind of the politics of radicalism from basically the late 2000s up until kind of 2016, 2018, something like that. And it really delves into this idea, this concept of the difference between horizontalism and having some sort of actual political structure. It's the first half is better than the second half if anyone's interested in reading it, just to be candid, but I skimmed like half of it. Bevins is originally a journalist, and like a good journalist, really good at doing the lead, and then the bottom part, anticipating that no one's going to actually read it, is just kind of a slog. But he really goes into, because a lot of these political movements that we had in the 2010s, like Occupy, the Umbrella Movement, hell, even like the Egyptian, like kind of the Arab Spring revolts, were these very like kind of decentralized structures with all these little different grouplets. And Occupy, which was something that I had worked on with over here in Chicago, is very emblematic of it in the sense that there's a lot of tiny groups, but there's no strong central leader. And then what did we see in the end? It either didn't do anything in the case of Occupy, except basically blowed up, the tiny little sectarian groups like the one I was a member of, a group called the International Socialist Organization. They were a very warped little group, but you have these people like kind of trying to leech off membership, but in terms of the actual political force that you're trying to push forward, well, nothing happened. And we see that really here. It seems like you had like certain strong personalities, which again was very emblematic of these horizontal structures. You had people show up and, they'd be very, very vocal, very like, you had basically strong personalities show up and they would kind of rise to the top because everyone's like, well, that person's really loud and they sound like that they know what they're talking about versus everyone else. And I think that these goofballs in the Maya Pei Brigade kind of had the same thing. They had this, whoever the hell Maya Pei is, but this like one person that they all, like you guys were saying, like this one person that they all went behind. And then, but the structure itself was very like horizontal. We're like, well, I'm just imagining Maya Pei sitting there. Well, what do you all think, guys? Should we hang out and make camp so we can blow up some amps, y'all? Like, like fucking who's the guy with the perm who did Paint by Numbers, like Rebel Bob Ross or something? Someone who has no business trying to lead a bunch of guerrillas.
My gut says that Maya Pei is cool and chill and has good politics, but not enough. Not enough for a guy to be cool and chill and have good politics.
I will say they were very under strength for a brigade. That's my final.
They were. They were. If this was half of the people, that's like 30 people. That's or I guess probably a bunch of them got killed too.
And I know that Star Wars uses those words differently, but isn't a brigade like 5,000 people?
I'm gonna guess they called themselves a brigade.
Oh man, it's been a while since I covered the military, but every army kind of uses a different structure. But yeah, they're at least down to like a fire team, I think.
I was gonna say, like, I would define them more as like a squad or like at most a regiment, like including all the ones that died.
The Maya Pei squad. Anyway, the Maya Pei Brigade fucks shit up. They take Cassian hostage. They end up fully like war zoning one another. They like choose parts of the clearing and they are basically like holding the fort and trying to not, and then they go out and they do rock, paper, scissors, and it's very stupid. And the point is that Cassian gets away. He gets into the tie. He shoots a motherfucker to get in there and he gets out of there. And we'll leave him for now. Concurrently, I assume concurrently, it seems like, yeah, it's concurrent, is the wedding of Lita Mothma. So at the very, very end of Andor Season 1, Mon Mothma was, in exchange for, gangster Davos Skolden helping to hide her assets, Mon Mothma agreed to introduce her daughter to Skolden's son. And this is the result of that, is child marriage. Thanks,
no.
Chandrilla.
Look, you just don't understand the unique cultural values of Chandrilla, where it is
Clearly,
fine.
I do not.
It is fine to force two children to marry each other.
To like 15-year-olds.
Yes.
No, I don't know. The entire arc takes place on the Mothma estate. I will say, these episodes looked phenomenal. The sets, the cinematography, I believe the first scene with Mon in it is this crazy long take through the whole like outside estate area. It's bonkers impressive. Mon Mothma is rich.
This has
What
to
the
have been
fuck?
filmed in like Italy somewhere like that, right? Because I was looking at the landscape and it was giving very much like Pennines to me.
There's a really good shot of it. I don't know if the filming location for this one specifically leaked. I would have to check. No, but I mean, Mon Mothma, we know she's rich. She has a penthouse on Coruscant. She's a senator. Oh my God, her home.
I was at a Bernie Sanders thing for the oligarchy tour or whatever. Hashtag team fight or whatever. But yeah, I know that was cringe.
This okay. Bernie forgives you.
It was just like, I'm remembering him saying the 1% of the 1%. And I think Mon Mothma may be the 1% of the 1% of the 1% of the 1%, and on and on and on.
I mean, she definitely is. I'm a person who will absolutely stick up for Mon Mothma. I don't think people give her enough credit for what and who she actually is. I think people look at the haircut and the fact that she's a woman and stop there. But what the fuck, Mon?
She's a bourgeois traitor.
Like, we knew she was rich. I just don't like seeing it.
Many people are saying she's a class traitor. We don't know why.
Okay, enough of the impressions. We're not a comedy podcast. Get that shit out of here. The Mon Mothma plot. Luthen shows up. Clea is there. It's very. They're not actually invited. They're invited by Davos Golden, and Mon Mothma's like, why the fuck are you guys here? The Mon Mothma plot is basically just advancing the plot of the show itself. It's very character focused. I think Mon Mothma is justifiably projecting a lot of her own, the needs that she had when she was a child bride at around Lita's age, onto Lita. And Lita resents that, which is a huge bummer. I don't know. This arc is like really brutal and hard to. I don't know how much I have to say about it, just because it's hard to watch Mon Mothma in this place. She's trying to navigate, Tay Kolma, one of the guys who helped her hide her funds. He's in a bad investment spot and he wants money. He wants money, or anything else kind of in payment. And I don't know, it's brutal. She's in a really bad place.
Oh my God, understatement of the century.
And so clearly, I mean, we have to talk about what Luthen's going to do about that, which I think we all know. But
yeah, Cinta's going to ice take Kolma. What the hell?
Yeah, he's going to or what's her face is going to do it for him. I can't remember her name.
Cinta.
Thank you, Cinta, the other one's girlfriend, who was sort of not girlfriend, unfortunately.
Yes, L for the lesbians.
Sad, very sad. But no, it's kind of like a horrible thing, because like you're watching all of these like customs and this like really sort of elaborate marriage going on, and being like, oh wow, Mon Mothma's so rich. But then it turns out she might not actually be rich enough, like, because this guy wants like effectively probably unlimited sort of payoffs from her, and so yeah, she's not having a good time. She's trying to balance all of these creeps who want her attention, and also this sort of rebel leader who's there being sort of skulky and always like ambushing her whenever she walks out of a room. And also this guy. Oh, really?
Where are they moving all of you guys from Steerguard? Please tell me.
So yeah, no, it sucks to be Mon Mothma, I guess. I'm glad that by the end of the season she's gonna be sort of camped out on Yavin 4. Exactly.
Like, Mon Mothma is at this point in her life where, I mean, I don't know if it's crumbling or just so much of it is soured. And Mon Mothma is a person with tremendous power and a lot of responsibility with that. She has money and she has political power. And she's trying to use that, and she should. That is absolutely correct of her. But there are ways in which that and other things in her life, I mean, the inhumanity of the like culture that she is from is really taking its toll on her. And instead of like, that's not going to get fixed. Mon Mothma is going to give up all of that to take a stand against the Empire when she eventually defects from the Senate and joins the Alliance or forms the Alliance. And I don't know, it's deeply tragic. I don't think there's I hope there's more for Mon this season than that tragedy, because she clearly cares deeply about her daughter. She cares about Perrin. He's a jackass, but she does.
Okay,
And
I mean, isn't it canon that they both cheat on each other, though?
Mon Mothma is not on record ever cheating on Perrin.
Oh,
Maybe
okay.
that's not the case, but everything that I know, which is everything there is to know about the relationship currently, I'm not going to pussyfoot around it. That's just true. It's one show and one book. It's not much. Yeah, I mean, Perrin has, I think, cheated on Mon.
Okay,
I think
well,
that is
in that case,
explicit,
full support
but-
for Mon Mothma.
But she can't go fuck Tay because Tay wants other, you know. Perrin feels alienated from her, which, you know, you don't want to feel close to Perrin, but feels alienated from her because of Tay Kolma. Tay Kolma is not actually, it's not that. Whether or not Mon would want it to be, it clearly isn't and will never be. because Luthen's gonna ice that motherfucker.
Well, and Perrin is also alienated from Mon by the fact that, you know, she cares about shit, whereas he's just kind of like a playboy weirdo.
Absolutely. Mon Mothma is like a real person.
No, yeah, and Perrin is such an interesting character because he really represents. Sorry, I'm gonna say something cringe. I used to be a big fan of the podcast Chapo Trap House. If any of you have ever listened, you're all like cringing
Sure, I
now.
know Chapo.
But look, there was Matt Christman. Say what you want about the guy, but he was one of the hosts, and before he had a really nasty stroke, he brought up a really interesting kind of concept about the way he at least viewed Republicans. And like Perrin kind of fits that, which is like it's this idea of like a conservative is just angry at you, not because, you know, you have these beliefs. It's more like, why care? Yeah, the planet's gonna die. Yeah, everything's bad. Yeah, fascism is reigning. But you could have all this stuff. You could have a lot of fun. You could enjoy life. And kind of seeing that kind of mixed marriage where you have this like kind of anti-life, you know, in a sense, like Mon Mothma, who really, she's a humanitarian. She cares, but she's not having any fun. She's deeply miserable, that entire sequence. And then you have Perrin, who's drunk out of his mind, hanging out, saying goofy speeches, being like a, you know, kind of like a Republican dad. And I really found that just kind of like this interesting dynamic because another thing I really thought of was in Legends, I don't believe Mon Mothma's husband ever really shows up, and she has a son who dies at the Battle of Hoth. Like, it's a very different dynamic here, seeing these like very kind of conservative family members versus her having this kind of radical, if not, you know, on the more like kind of extreme end politics, and then on the other end, you know, having these really you know, liberal politics that she kind of uses as her you know, public persona, is like, oh, she's kind of the ditzy, you know, she's the liberal, she's the Jan Schakowsky, versus when, you know, deep down she's like Bernie Sanders on crack.
I mean, we don't have a politician in the United States who is actively funding insurgency, to my knowledge.
Oh, no, Mon Mothma is very much like, for whoever would save his life would lose it, and whoever loses his life would save it. Like, she's just like, I'm going to put all of my effort towards this thing, towards sort of like restoring the Republic, or, you know, fixing the Empire or destroying the Empire, whatever it is she's doing at various times. So like almost as to like not be stained by her own like position of power and privilege. And I think that's like a really interesting dynamic, I guess.
Well, and very much what Perrin and frankly the rest of the sort of Chandrillan nobles around her serve as in this arc is almost as a foil, or I guess as a symbol of what she's pushing against, because it isn't just like the legal and the bureaucratic resistance of the Empire, right? She's a target of the state, but she's also pushing against the apathy of rich people.
The apathy of, and not just the apathy of rich people, right? Like something I like to think about a lot in our sort of present situation, and we're Americans, so kind of all of us are rich on a global scale, but we have, I think someone put it very nicely, sort of a crisis of Republican virtue in this country at the moment, where people are not willing to make any sacrifice for other people, for their country, for whatever, really. It's like, I don't know. And I think that Mon is kind of like exemplary of that, in that she is giving a shit. She is willing to, sort of fight to improve or maintain the lot of other people at her own expense sometimes. Or all the time, really.
To put it bluntly, I would have to agree. Like, to put it bluntly, she's doing some Oscar Schindler shit. Like, she's taking all of her fortune and using it to help others, which is, again, I think you're really hitting it on there. Is like, maybe it's part of that is this sense of like a loss of this Republican virtue, as you're saying, this idea that there are institutions and beliefs that are worth sustaining versus, well, my life kind of sucks and the price of eggs are high. Fuck it, yeah, we can have this demagogue, run everything, and hey, at least I'm getting my grain dole. There's another podcast I listen to pretty frequently. Oh my goodness, it was in the tip of my tongue, but the exact name, I'll have to look it up in a second. But they had, really what I'm trying to get to here is, they had a guest on. His name is Vivek Chibler. I don't agree necessarily 100% with his politics, but he's a professor over at NYU. And he was really talking about kind of the issues with the American left as like kind of an institution. And it's a lot of that is that there's this lack of sense that, this lack of sense of sacrifice, that being on the left and being, a radical, a rebel, whatever you want to put it, involves a lot of sacrifice. And you're always consistently on a lot of losing battles. You're not, look at poor Bernie Sanders as like an example here in the US. That man was against the Iraq War. He argued against a lot of just really like noxious legislation. And he would be the only person saying like, this is a load of bullshit, doing that. And Mon Mothma, I think, and a lot of these other people who are like actually trying to wake up to the rebellion. I mean, hell, Cassian was that person. He was like, I tried to fight for this. I tried to, make a difference. I tried to tell these people to fuck off, and my life was worse for it. I think, what was Cassian's background? Like, he got sent to like, basically got drafted to fight on Mimban like Han Solo was. Like, that's,
after attacking a group of clone troopers once his dad was, lynched.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, I could understand, like, fuck, like, my kind of, political apathy, which I will say I have been guilty of in the past, stemmed from just burnout and the fact, I don't really want to get into it, but, one time I was organizing, and there was an assault cover-up that you had to play around in the internal politics, and it was so disgusting. I was like, I threw up my hands at it. I was like, why bother with this? In that case, he was like, okay, if I try to do anything and I try to make a change, I'm going to get sent to the mud planet where, like, it's World War I forever. Like, you can see where people, like, get burned out.
Yeah, I was just going to say, what if we had World War I for, like, 60 years? Like, like in years of rice and salt.
Oh, God.
That was a deep cut. No one's going to know what that means.
I don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
Honestly, I'm vaguely familiar, but, like, not really.
And where we end up leaving Mon Mothma is getting wasted at her at her fucking daughter's wedding, like her mom. You know, she's not really breaking out of this fully, and again, that's where we leave her. Transitioning over to, I guess, you know, Dedra. Really, it's not just Dedra, but you know, where we open up with our ISB motherfuckers is in a location, like a secret ass meeting room in a place called the Malthine Divide.
It's some Wolf Slayer bullshit. Like, that's some fucking Hitler's estate
exactly.
shit.
And you have Krennic, Director Krennic, Rogue One, hi Krennic, has gotten a bunch of people together, a crack team of bastards, to essentially plan how they're going to navigate an extractive mining project on the planet Gorman. This is the first like proper introduction of Gorman. Gorman is the one that will happen to, and you know, you have people there from all across the Imperial military and like the rest of the structure too. I mean, you have engineers, you have military guys, you have ISB. There's the
propaganda division there.
Yes, there's huckster propagandists.
We got to talk about those guys.
The Ministry of Enlightenment.
Okay, you've heard of like a slick suit, but those guys are like actually wearing like a slick suit. Like their suits just scream, "I am an untrustworthy freakazoid."
It's like
they're
Mad
horrible.
Men on
I mean,
crack.
they're so like tech bro marketing motherfuckers.
Oh my god. Okay, I'm glad we're on the same page. The whole time I was watching that scene, I mean, first off was like, oh shit. This is America. We're the baddies. We're the baddies in this season. This season of Andor is, oh shit, America is the Empire, which not a fun thing to watch. But on the other hand, I was like, oh shit, Krennic. Hot take, but oh shit, Krennic is totally Elon Musk running Doge. Please tell me I'm wrong.
No, he's the same in that, at least in the fact that he's definitely never like done it.
Well, yeah, I mean, there is this aspect of Krennic where he is all bluster. He's like, I met with the Emperor. No, he fucking didn't. No, he fucking did not meet with the Emperor, right? Like, maybe, but probably not. Anyway, what they supposedly have to do is they have to gouge mine. They have to destabilize the planet to get calcite ore, I guess that's the name of it, for reactor lenses. They're trying to create, like, apparently one of Palpatine's main, like, engineering platforms is big sustainable energy, which is cover for the Death Star. This is Death Star shit. This is stupid, dumbass Death Star shit.
Fucking Tesla.
I heard the word energy independence, and I actually, like, squeaked. Like,
unlimited power.
Such a right-wing buzzword. Like,
I sank
we have
into
to
my
have
chair.
autarky. We have to do Juche, like, in the Empire. This will be great.
Yeah, no, I sank watching that because I was just like, oh shit, this is some weird Tesla bullshit.
And then they're just planning basically like, oh, how do we like make everyone hate this group of people on Gorman? So who are like apparently like making clothing, and that's like their entire thing, and they have to be like, oh, aren't they so snooty and spider-like? And I'm like, oh my god.
Like, they had like slick marketing bro, like, fascism talking points like, me and the boys came up with a new way of doing racism, everyone. Come around.
Well, but it's also worth mentioning, I mean, the Gorman Massacre is what, at least, you know, as established, we'll see how it shakes out, is the big thing. They kill a bunch of people on Gorman. We're getting there. Influences Mon Mothma to speak out against the Emperor directly and leave the Senate and begin the alliance proper. And I wasn't sure how Gorman would be in this show till they started showing it off in pre-release stuff, but Gorman is what we see of it, the capital city, is it Palmo?
I believe it was Palmo.
Palmo. Gorman is rich. Gorman is human. Gorman is like white coated. They have like an Alphorn or whatever.
Yeah, they have like a weird like bag. They have like a weird like bagpipe like horn thing going on, and I thought that was quite amusing.
They a bunch of Ricola motherfuckers.
They are, and you know, maybe that's why. Presumably, the Ministry of Enlightenment people will fail, at the very least, because the Gorman Massacre seems to be a thing that people don't like, and maybe I'm wrong about that. Anyway, it was just a real takeaway for me that like the Empire has been enslaving and genociding all sorts of people for a decade and a half, and I've been wondering, what is it about Gorman? They're humans.
Well, it's the human thing,
now.
And I don't know. It's like maybe there comes a point at which, right, like in what you would call authoritarian consolidation, at which it sort of becomes apparent to even the stupidest people what are going on, what is going on, I guess you should say, and at that point, you have to decide whether you're just gonna, you know, sort of not give a shit, or whether you're going to become a problem. And I think that this will be that point for like most people in the galaxy, and for our good friend Mon Mothma, a future leader of the Alliance to Restore the Republic. I guess I have to wonder if, you know, if things continue the way they are going in our own area. What will that point be for all of us? Has it already happened?
Well,
I don't think it has, but it could.
What is the crossing of the Rubicon? What's the Gorman Massacre?
Yeah, what's the Gorman Massacre?
Will there ever be one?
No, like, I think when you both were talking about the concept of like myths and kind of how Star Wars is kind of a postmodern or a modern version of it, it reminded me of like a bit. This is going to be a real patented Maxine Kwiatkowski deep cut. There's a book that Karl Marx wrote called Der Grundrisse, which roughly
I'm sorry?
The Grundrisse, which roughly translates to the rough draft. No, it is not a large fairy tale monster that Germans say, to frighten their children. Like,
the Kinderlumper.
Oh no, the Grundrisse will get you. But there's a part in it, it's the rough draft of Capital, and there's a bit where he talks about art. Basically, he says, like, look, there was the Iliad, there were all these myths and mythic heroes, but can they, could something like this, specifically like the Iliad, all of these things, exist within the material confines of modern capitalism? And he says, well, basically he says that the things that came up in the era of the Greeks, yeah, maybe that can't exist there. But really what I'm trying to get at is that this myth of Star Wars, the mythic saga of what it is, how do I put it? It's our myth that reflects our shared reality. Like, yeah, there was the Trojan War. I don't think that there was a dude named Odysseus who fought Charybdis and hung out with the horny lotus eaters or whatever the fuck he was doing. Instead, we're talking about, like, the Empire is a pastiche of German fascism, British imperialism, and American exceptionalism. So it's going to reflect all of those things. Now, are we going to have like a Gorman Massacre? Are we going to have this descent into fascism quite the same way? Obviously not. But I think what's really like telling and hopeful for me is whenever I'm like hopping on the CTA over here in the lovely city of Chicago, where I see everyone going down almost every Saturday to be like, fuck this orange bastard. Fuck the Empire. As lovely Marva Andor would have put it, had Disney not come in and censored it. But I think that we've already kind of hit that moment.
Fuck is cute, but fight is better.
Well, and okay, and here's the thing. Like, I am genuinely curious where our good friend Deidre is going to land at this, because she does not want the Gorman Project, and I can't help but wonder, I guess, if it's because there's some part of her that's like, this is going to end really badly.
I was having the exact same thought.
Yeah, I mean, shit went south on Ferrix. Frankly, not really her fault. They put the woman on the project right before it went to hell. I guess they took Blevin off. He's a black guy. But I don't know. Like, she is now the director that oversees Gorman. She's gonna have to deal with that. Like, that's not gonna go well.
I personally think I was really getting to think of like, oh man, is this gonna be another Imperial defects of the rebellion because she has a change of heart? I think what we see in like later scenes, no, she is a fucking irredeemable sack of shit. I think,
right? I mean, she's straight from the Imperial Kinterblock. I mean, whatever actually that would have been.
Well,
maybe that's a lie because she's surely like 35 or something, and she predates the.
It was on
Empire.
Tatooine.
well, and she
aged
just doesn't
rapidly.
want to. She just doesn't want to lose her like nice little life she has going, like with her like weird like subby boyfriend and and
his bitch mother.
her cushy job at the ISB. Like, she just thinks that Gorman is going to be like, it's going to go bad and it's going to be a stain on her reputation. She doesn't want that because she wants to be known for being an effective fascist.
Absolutely. No, and I think the other thing I really noticed from the whole Dedra scene is like, especially when they get over to her and Cyril's apartment, who, God, fucking Cyril, just how lifeless and sterile Dedra Miro's apartment is. I mean, when like, for example, when Cyril like goes and has his tantrum after his mommy says something mean to him, he just hops on that bed like a fucking petulant
That was a
child.
well-deserved tantrum. I will say he deserved to go pout on the bed.
His mom is kind of a bitch. Yeah.
She is, but
His
it's also
mom's
like,
a
you're a
huge
grown-ass
bitch.
man. Grow the fuck up, dude. Like, you have your own apartment.
I love Dedra saying he didn't want pickles on his sandwich. That was so fucking good, man.
But, I mean, you see him on that bed. Does that bed look comfortable? It's made out of pleather. Everything in there looks sterile, lifeless, and even the food they're eating, like, that's some, like, North Korea, like, deep-fried matter shit.
Dedra Miro is what I imagine like a sort of like guy who lives in Berlin, right? And is always going to like the insane sort of techno clubs they have there. I think that is what that guy's apartment would look like.
A guy that does not live at home, right? A guy that lives at not work, but at the club. At the club.
Das Club.
At the club.
Das Club.
All right, forgive me. We have to really transition hard away from Dedra over to Mina Rao. Mina Rao is where the Phyrexian survivors, that's Wilman Pock, the kid, Bix, B2EMO, Brasso, and Cassian clearly have been living since Ferrix. And it is also like, it is a proper like agricultural world. Like, Star Wars is always like, yeah, there's farm worlds. We just never fucking touch them. This is one of those.
And it's cool.
There are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of like, God, I don't know, what are they? Divisions, colonies? I'm unsure. And the Ferrix people are living here as kind of a refuge, and they've set up lives, right? Brasso has a partner. Wilman has someone that he likes. B2EMO lives here. He's a kitty. He got used to it. And I don't know. I think the Mina Rao stuff was really what got me, because it's I mean, it's where the episodes end, and yeah, I don't know. What do you guys have to say about that?
I like the visuals a lot. I know we're not supposed to be doing reviewer mode, but I thought the visuals of this were really cool, and like the design of the like weird big silo things I found quite enjoyable.
Oh God, yeah.
As a person who has, I guess, a closer connection to agriculture than the average bear.
Yeah, like, it reminded me deeply. I briefly lived in a place called, like, London, Ohio, which, like, that was my first experience with, like, anything agricultural. And just kind of seeing this, like, large, like, it was like space Iowa, basically, at least to me. I'm a filthy urbanite. So, like, 4-H and all that shit is alien to me. But no, it was just fascinating to see this kind of... I was joking to someone recently. I was like, oh, yeah, no, they made the planet from Rebel Moon, but it didn't suck. Take that one, Zack Snyder.
Got him.
Yeah. But, I mean, really, really and truly, like, it just reminded me of, like... I'm gonna send you guys a picture quickly of, like, part of the road between my grandparents' house in redacted Montana town and where they grew up, and we would sometimes visit this when I was a kid. Like, it is literally like Mina Row. Like, it is
God.
Just endless grain, like, for like hundreds of miles. And so this was quite interesting to me. It felt like almost a familiar landscape of just like endless grain sort of dotted with like little hills and mountains and stuff. So I thought it was fun.
Well, and the thing about this setting, I mean, it is a different sort of labor environment to Ferrix, but this is just people who are there doing work, right? And instead of the tension of this plot line comes through when, I mean, Cassian is supposed to be back from his TIE fighter mission, and he isn't back because of the fucking Maya Fey Brigade. And while he is gone, an Imperial supply census begins. Like, they haven't done that kind of shit in 6 years, but for whatever reason, now is the time to do it. And they're taking stock of what they have is the explanation, but it's also, I mean, it's giving ice. The main focus on the Ferrix stuff is not that these guys are refugees from Ferrix. It's not that they're covering up for Cassian. It's just that they don't have visas. They use the word visa. It's that they're undocumented. They are working agriculture on this planet, in this community. They are doing this labor. They are all working as mechanics for the farm equipment, and they're undocumented, and they're worried that they're going to be arrested for it. People are getting arrested for it. And the choice to focus on that lack of documentation instead of, they're on the run, Cassian was a wanted man, there was a manhunt out for him a year ago. That is one of the more they were doing.
That's kind of like,
they were doing
commentary.
I want to say, right.
I want to say it's like a brave choice almost. Like,
it's very bold. It also gives these characters so much agency that it's their story. They're a part of the plot. They aren't just these side characters in Cassian's life. They have real issues. And I think that's one of the things that makes Andor so special, is so much of Star Wars is about, all these magic and, all this philosophy stuff. And instead, this is just gritty, materialistic. These are real people living real lives, and this is what happens to them.
Well, yeah, it's like,
well,
as you said, a lot of Star Wars is like great events, capital G, capital E. And as you said, Andor is like very much like, okay, how do great events, capital G, capital E, affect like Joe Schmo, who's a farmer, or Jim Bob McGee, who is, an immigrant or whatever. Yeah, it's cool. I appreciated it.
Well, and it was this, I don't know where they're living and they're working in this place, but it also, I mean, it can't last. There's some real parallel to what happens on Ferrix. I mean, there's what happens on Ferrix in the first arc of Andor season 1, where, to some degree, it's not Cassian, but it's Cassian's friends. They are sold out by someone in their community. I think Kellen, the guy with the gray hair, reports them to the officials, basically to get the officials away from his family. And there's this scene where one of the Imperial officers kind of, I think, lays bare what's going on here. And I can't play the clip, so I'm going to just read what he says. But he's talking to Bix, and he says, "I know you're illegal. We've been counting visas. It's a tough spot for everyone. The councils need the help or there's no harvest. The help is undocumented. The rules are clear, but the situation requires nuance." And he says, "It all ends up on me." And it is this system where it is like plainly and by design exploitative, right? Why is the Imperial supply census happening then? because they want to put a fire under the feet of the people working there. They don't want them to get any ideas. They don't want them to jockey for better labor rights. I mean, this is something that I talked about this in the fucking last Daughters of Ferrix episode, right? The backbone of the American agricultural industry is undocumented labor. And as a result, it is exploited labor because those people are not afforded many, if any, rights under the law. They are not afforded recourse under the law. And even if they are, that makes them a target if they are known.
It's the old Marxian axiom of, well, you know, capital has an unlimited pool of labor so long as they continue to oppress labor. That, you know, yeah, no, we have a pool of people that we can just pull from who will do this work for us, and then we can pay them as little as possible, and we can because we make them so afraid of the law, so afraid of just living life, that we can do whatever we want with them. We effectively own them. It's serfdom with additional steps.
Well, and doing whatever we want to them is right. I mean, all of this violence is enabling the exploitation of these workers. I mean, this is being done to Willman, and it kills Brasso. But this is violence that is doled out very differently to women. I mean, this is what happens with Bix, sexual assault trigger warning. Sexual assault and servitude is chiefly done specifically to women under a colonial regime. Right, like that is part of it. That has been baked into it for centuries. And I mean, it's one of those things where it's like to pretend like sexes are treated equally under these power dynamics is at best naive and at worst, like it ignores that abuse. I mean, actual undocumented people in this country, you know, immigration's customs enforcement, that's ICE. They are destroying the lives of migrants by their very function as a matter of course. And the imprisonment and like rendition of those people to fucking El Salvador of anyone that they decide is vulnerable enough is an atrocity. But it's important to realize that dehumanization always affects women specifically. And differently, right? There's this documented history of reports of sexual violence from guards, doctors, staff at immigration facilities, sometimes repeatedly. I mean, and these are reports that are not getting investigated by administration. They're getting ignored. Like, when a person is made into a victim of sexual assault, they are reduced. They're reduced from an individual with interiority into a prop, from a person with a childhood or a life or a future into just a woman. You know, this is violence that specifically exists to disempower a person, to put a woman in her place. And because immigrants already experience so much precarity, they're at extreme risk for this kind of thing. If you've read accounts of women assaulted while detained by immigration enforcement, again and again, you see the phrase that they say that I thought he was going to kill me, right? Just that fear, that trauma can shape the rest of a person's life way after any custody. I mean, both mentally and physically. And life goes on after sexual assault, right? Survivors are not and are never limited to being the object of their abuser's whim. Not every victim can physically fight back, but Bix fucking kills that guy, which is also deeply traumatic, but is an assertion of her agency, right? I don't know, I've only seen some of the discourse, I'm only interested in some of the discourse, but sexual violence has been a part of Star Wars since at least Return of the Jedi, and I'm just grateful Andor had the fucking decency to treat it as actually harrowing, you know, to name that violence for what it is instead of... To name that violence for what it is at least a little bit more liberatory than making action figures and posters of it.
I mean, the fact that they just put it on the nose and they, like, Bix literally announces, what the fuck is your problem? He literally tried to rape me, in so many words. And then the fascist, sitting there in his little fucking toy boat, basically, is like, you fucking beat him to death. That's bad. And it's, I don't know, it was just a horrific scene. Like, we're already dealing with, like, so many just, like, oppressive things, and just the realness of how much this is like a parable of American fascism this season. And then just that bit right at the end. Terrifying. Utterly terrifying. There's not much, I think you hit it right on the head. There's not much else to say. It's just it's one of the better depictions, at least I've seen, but it's still rough to watch.
Yeah. No, and it's,
I had to skip that part.
I don't blame you.
That's perfectly reasonable. I'm glad that it wasn't graphic, but the fact that, I mean, I mentioned it up top, there wasn't a trigger warning on this, and there absolutely should have been, and I'm not happy about that. I think there is, like, legitimate criticism of this, where Bix is kind of becoming this punching bag for the show to depict the violence done to women of color under this sort of regime, and I think Andor needs to stop. I think the show needs to stop doing that to her at the very least.
Yes.
Because it is starting to feel unnecessary. And I do think it comes through that this episode was written by a man, was directed by a man. I don't think the scene was bad. I think there were a lot of things about it that were really strong, but I don't know. I do think this is something that is showing the limits of Andor. I am frankly really unhappy that all four of the I can't remember how many, all of the directors of this season are men. Andor, since its beginning, has been like a massive sausage fest. And I think Andor season 2 kind of even more so. Not important. That's tangential, but
I think especially if you're dealing with, there's a lot of issue in a lot of media where they take women and, the whole fridging women concept. And I think I kind of agree. Like, having Bix Kaleem, who's already been, like, tortured by fucking Dr. Gorst, that Mengele ass looking motherfucker, already doing, like, putting that on her. And then it's like, oh yeah, we're going to throw this on top of that. Like, it's a well done scene, but it's still like, you're putting a lot of risk on doing something that visceral and real. And I think that's part of just, like, what makes Andor what it is, but it's bridging on that point where you're like, I don't know. It's a hard one to, like, really
You
parse,
don't want it to be
I
torture
think.
porn.
Yeah, I don't like watching that shit.
No, I don't know. And I think I do appreciate how focused the Mina Rao stuff is. I think it is deliberate and, frankly, explicitly political in a way that even a lot of stuff in Andor isn't. The Mon Mothma stuff is coded and complicated, and this just says it outright. I mean, that's how it is for a lot of the kind of Ferrix and Ferrix adjacent stuff. These are people, I believe all non-white people, who are just trying to live their lives. And this regime sees that and wants to exploit them even more than they already are. And I don't know, anyone who gets selected by the random shit is made an example of, so that the other ones keep doing what they're doing. And it's really violent, and it's really horrible, and it's a real shame, because this is like a good community in a lot of ways. B2EMO, my favorite little kitty son, he's with that nice woman, Talia, and they have to leave. And whatever is next for Cassian and for Bix and for Willman, I don't expect it to be good things, because of what has been done to them, because of their victimization. It was a process. And it was a process that was, deliberate on every level, I guess. At the very least through negligence, and that's enough. So
I'm going to be honest. I'm not expecting most of the Ferric crew to survive this season. If anything, I think we're going to see the kind of the conclusion of the tragedy of Cassian Andor, where his best friend is a reprogrammed droid, and he has nothing left because he put everything into fighting the oppression that sent him to the world's most elaborate, or the galaxy's most elaborate gulag.
I will be unhappy if they kill Bix, but
Narratively speaking, I think that you are correct, and that everyone except Cassian will be dead by the end of the season. I am curious as to whether we're going to meet, it's K2SO, isn't
Yes.
it?
K2SO,
If we're going to meet K2SO
no, it
this
is.
season.
It is this season. It is actually specifically in arc number 3.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
well,
he's
there
in
you
it.
go.
Alan Tudyk was
So-
at Celebration.
They're going to retcon a
So,
crappy
yeah.
comic book.
It's a fine comic book. Not that it matters, frankly. And that is the first arc. Kind of a fucked up one. Kind of brutal. Kind of very fast and and then it's just gonna skip a year and leave us there. Thanks, Andor.
Yeah.
I mean, it
kind
it
of
was
a
good.
Dour note to end on.
I'm looking forward to next week. It's really something.
Something indeed.
And it'll be fun.
Yeah,
We'll
it'll
have
be
more
so
Star Wars.
Cool and
that I
fun
wanna
and
watch.
silly.
It'll be a good
What
time.
a haha pulpy good time.
Hee hee, quirky, haha.
All right. Maxine, where can people find you online?
I guess, honestly, I'm on a bunch of other social media, but the one I want you to follow is I'm on most places. If you want to find my stuff, is at Buonapartista. That's spelled Buonapartista. Buonapartista. It's like Bona Beef, a local chain here in Chicago, plus Partista. God, why do I keep picking the frickin' Europhile names?
Thank you very much for being here, Maxine. I think it was a good conversation. I couldn't have thought of anyone better for especially the Maya Pei bullshit.
Thank you. It was so
Revisionist.
filthy revisionist. Sophie, it was a pleasure to finally get to meet you. I hope my ramblings didn't scramble anyone's brain or try anyone's attention spans. So thank you all for letting me have a little bit of a goof here.
You were lovely. Thank you.
I thought it was great.
If you have any questions, suggestions, or corrections, you can send them to our show email, daughtersferrix@gmail.com.
If you want to listen to new episodes as they release every so often, you can find us on most places you can listen to podcasts. You can find sources for this episode on our website, daughtersofferrix.com, and follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at FerrixPod, spelled FerrixPod.
Thank you to our comrades Joel Miranda and Emerson Reyes for making this episode possible. If you want to support the show, visit patreon.com/daughtersofferrix. I've been Eleanor Mueller. You can find me at The Letter Bomber on most platforms. Sophie, what about you?
You can find me at Episcopilled, where we talk about religion, at The Red Line Pod, where we talk about transit and urbanism, and here on the Daughters of Ferrix show for the next 3 weeks.
This episode was edited by Lewis Holding. Our background music is by Louis Zong. Our intro was arranged by me, with theme by Louis Zong. Thanks for listening.
Bye.
I'm so excited for there to be more of the horrible colonialism, fascism show.
Me too.
Star Wars
Great
is for
time.
kids, everybody.
Star Wars is only for kids if you're sort of a messed up kid like I was.
That's important. Represent the messed up kids.